anymore. I don't remember at this point. So, welcome if this is your first time tuning in. I am Lana, live from my living room with my puppy underneath me because they are still popping off rocks outside, fireworks going off in the neighborhood. Any excuse to make noise and to freak out our poor animals. I'm not a big fan of fireworks. I don't care for the lights and the noise and the pollution. Really think about it. This is just my opinion. You can like whatever you like. I lived in Naples, Italy, and when I was living there, my poor puppy Angel, she would freak out. And Naples, Italy is as bad as China because they are infamous for their fireworks. So the entire city would light up, and my dog would basically go in the bathroom and curl around the toilet. There's something soothing around being near the water. I can't explain it, but mostly because the bathroom was on the inside of the building. And yeah, that was not good. Our pets suffer the most. They literally think the world is coming to an end. So for the mere enjoyment of seeing some lights, and maybe even some people I've seen lose their hearing and be damaged by fireworks. In fact, that brings up another story. Back in the day when I was still in high school, some guys that I knew were messing around with fireworks, and one of my good friends, the guys were joking around. They put some fireworks in his back pocket. They lit it off, and he ended up with a really severe scar on his ass. And they were all drunk, so they thought it was funny, but the months that he had to go through for healing it was not funny. And so, people got to really think about, what is it that drives you? What motivates you? What are your values? And that's what I'm going into. This is the energy forecast that I'm feeling for this year. That if you haven't been tuned into yourself, if you're so out of touch, you really need to get devotional, dedicated, and really spot on the deep reflection in your life. Where have you been? What have you been through? Like, really decode yourself, really research yourself, deeply reflect where you've been and where you're at. What have you learned? What's a common theme in your life? Have you healed everything? Or are you still working on it? Are you still dealing with the same trauma and the same drama and repeating patterns? Do you still get triggered by the same things? Do family members set you off? Or are you able to be calm amongst the storm? This is the theme for this next year. If you're not on your A game, you're going to be wiped out. Someone's going to pull the rug out from underneath you. Because if you don't know yourself deeply, intimately, and reclaim your personal power, someone's going to hijack it for you. And that's been playing out already. It's basic psychology. But what I've noticed is people who claim to know what psychology is are also very much out of touch. And some of the most bamboozled and duped people have been the most educated. Why? Because our education system is meant to indoctrinate us. It's meant to get us to follow the rules, to go along and never question anything. Some of us are old enough to remember the days when we were taught to question everything. Why? Because that's the nature of life, is be curious. Have the curiosity of a child. It's funny because some of us grew up with the children are supposed to be seen and not heard. How insulting is that? Children are vibrant. They have creativity. They have all of this like excitement and zest for life. And then to have a grumpy old adult turn around and say, children should be seen and not heard. I think that's pretty insulting. Just because you're pissed off and angry at the world doesn't mean you need to turn everybody else into your direction. Misery loves company. That's where all that stuff came from, is so many miserable people. And I remember when I was younger, my mother used to say, I never want to be like those grumpy old ladies, those bitter old ladies. And then I remember years later her going, oof, you know what? I think I understand why those women are bitter. I think I get it. It's because of the fact that they got it. They understood the corruption. They could see through the bullshit and the lies. But they couldn't find ways to affect it. to make change, to be effective. And that's where we're at right now, is how can we focus on our visions, focus on our lives and solutions based, as opposed to all this distraction, chaos, because anything that takes you out of your peace is not for you. Anything that takes you out of your peace leaves you in pieces. And we're here with a purpose and a path. And it's not to get hijacked and pulled into other crazy storylines and narratives that don't align with us. So one of the things I say when I'm in my yoga classes and I'm teaching, notice your physical alignment, notice your body. Your body's always telling on your mind. Your body is a tattletale for your mind. It's a mirror. Emotions are not actually felt as much as they're thought and translated in the body and manifested because of repetitive thought. So a misalignment, meaning an emotion, a trigger, a charge, is an imbalance of energy that gets lodged and stored in the body when you have an imbalanced, misaligned belief system or thought or storyline or any type of construct that's mentally channeling through your head. So whatever's going through your mind and you're not in awareness of it, it is translating in your body. It's saying, hey, we got issues going on here. Your body's out of alignment. Your spine's out of alignment. The spine is your foundation. The spine is a direct mirror and correlation to your belief system. If your spine is out of alignment, if you have a rigid spine, inflexible, it's usually because you have a lot of dogma going on up in here. You've got a lot of belief systems and storylines that are just churning like a wheel. You're running on the hamster wheel and you're not questioning them. You're just going with them because that's what's always been. And you're so addicted or attached to them, you don't know how to let go. You don't know how to question them because that's familiar. The body is telling you it's misaligned because that's what kinesiology does. It tells you the truth that the mind can't see past. When you are so deep in your own shit, you can't see past it. With the same logic that got you in the problems and the trouble, you can't think yourself out of it. You literally, and if you've ever noticed this, 9 times out of 10, what does somebody say when you get emotionally charged or triggered? Stop, take a deep breath. Count to 10. Do whatever you got to do to reset your nervous system. Because when you're triggered, you go into the sympathetic fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. That's the stress response. That's what most people are living in right now. And that's our circuitry, our wiring. And when that's fried, then you are an easy target. And you will be in that sympathetic nervous system, meaning you will get set off by anything. But the more you work on strengthening your nervous system, then you can bring yourself back to the calm, the rest and digest of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is when you're not charged. You're able to see with neutrality. You're able to step back and just observe and be the witness to what's really transpiring. To not choose this or that, to be present with what is and see it for what it is, as opposed to becoming a victim and thinking everything's being done to you. Because this is what life is about. Life is about challenging. It's about questioning. It's about always looking and seeking what aligns, what feels right. And the body is the truth teller. The body is always keeping score. It's always telling. It's a tattletale. Your inner child is always there under the surface of all this saying, hey, that's not my truth. I don't align with that. And ouch, and ooh, and this pain, this hurts, this tension, the stiffness, it's vying for your attention. So what I have tapped into, and I've been working on this for myself for months, is that it really is about deeply reflecting upon your life and everything you've experienced, everything you've been through, writing it down, journaling, taking notes. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What drives you? What motivates you? What are your values? What is your programming? How was your childhood? Do you still have unresolved childhood hurts and pains with a parent, a mother, a father, a brother, a sister, an aunt, an uncle, a grandfather, a grandmother? Do you have old traumas that you have not resolved? The one thing I can always suggest is to write, because it's cathartic. And when you start writing, things come out, things pour out of you that you don't anticipate. You can, oh, I don't have time for it. Well, let me tell you this. If you don't make time for it, your body will make something happen that will require you to make time for it. Dis-ease in the body is a reflection of dis-ease in the mind. If you don't confront the mental constructs, the body will create physical imbalances in the form of dis-ease. That is just what I've learned from my personal experience. You can figure it out for yourself if you want to learn the hard way. I've had to in many cases. And in other cases, I've witnessed other people and I was like, okay, you know what? I don't think I need to learn that for my own, the hard way. I think I was taught through witnessing it through that other person. Or even certain things with my parents I witnessed and I was like, you know what? I'm grateful that they showed me so that I didn't have to go through that on my own. And a lot of people will do that for you. But it's a question of whether you're paying attention or if you're totally oblivious. Or maybe even enabling the storyline. Because that happens a lot too. Some of us are so loyal to a fault, we'll bicker and moan and gossip about the whole storyline. Yeah, you're right, they did that to you. You're a victim. It's their fault. Or you don't usually call the person a victim because we don't really want to say we're victims, do we? A lot of times we don't claim the title of victimhood, but yet the verbiage and the behavior is fallen in line with victimhood storylines. Let me tell you, victimhood only disempowers you. It's one thing to have learned through an experience that you made bad choices. That's all a mistake is we all just make different choices. Not good or bad, it's just a choice that could have been done differently. And we didn't. And it's okay. But when you know better, you can do better. So there's no such thing as a mistake. It's just a choice. And when you know that, that's more empowering, isn't it? Okay, so I learned my lesson. I learned to trust my gut, my instinct, my heart. I learned to trust the signs in my body, because your body's always going to tell you the truth if you tap into it. But there are a lot of people out there totally disconnected from this physical body. You know, oh, I'm aging. Oh, the pain. It's just, I'm getting older. I don't buy into that bullshit. And here's why. Because I was saying to a girlfriend the other day, I said, you know what cellulite is? It's the area around where your muscles are not being maintained. And so the amount of mass that used to represent that area has shrunk. So let's say, for example, I had a nice booty, and I'm working on this. And my butt got a little flabby, especially after my appendectomy. Oh my gosh, all I had to do is look in the mirror and go, ooh, that's what an old lady's ass looks like. Old lady in the sense that she didn't maintain her ass. She didn't actually work. She didn't exercise. She didn't maintain the muscle. Because you have to exercise your muscles to maintain them. And I don't know where in the world we came up with this idea that, oh, I have pain so I can't exercise. That was a lie perpetuated by the medical industry. That's just my personal opinion. Coming from people who don't even get educated in exercise or nutrition. Think about that. Here's some pills. You got pain? You shouldn't exercise. Oh, you've got inflammation. Guess what? I'm here to tell you, if you don't move it, you're going to lose it. And yes, you're going to have inflammation Because inflammation means anger. Inflammation is, it's the body healing itself. It's a natural response. And I'm not talking about pushing yourself past the point of pain or to injure yourself. You need to be doing something every day. Getting outside, walking. Oh, I got this shoulder issue. Yeah, I know, and I'm constantly moving it. Guess why? Because if I don't keep it in motion, energy in motion needs to stay in motion, I'm going to be stiffer. And I know that for myself. I ran marathons. I've always been active all of my life. And I'll tell you, the most pain I ever had was when I was inactive. So for all of the people out there that don't like to exercise, the reason you're feeling pain is because your body needs to move. The more you're sedentary, you're actually creating more pain. And you may not think so because you think your mind's like, I'm protecting you. You shouldn't move. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. But again, if you got cellulite, you got any other issues, you got, you're overweight or anything like that, I'm here to assure you, your body needs to move. Because if you don't move the lymphatic area that moves out toxins. The lymph area between the armpits, between the legs and the groin, even in the digestive area, just moving, twisting the body, moving the channel of the spine, getting that cerebral and spinal fluid up. That's what keeps you youthful. When you exercise, you create your own chemical cocktail reward system where people are like, oh, you look really vibrant. You look really good today. What are you doing? I want some of that. I get that all the time. I went to the gym. I just finished doing a session at Move. I am telling you, quit with the excuses, quit with the shoulds and the coulds, and just frickin' do it. Find something that motivates you, inspires you. Get a workout partner, an accountability buddy. Because 9 times out of 10, if there's someone else involved, we're more likely to follow through because we don't want to disappoint someone else. It's easier to let ourselves down. It's not so easy to let someone else down now, is it? So if you're not taking care of you, who are you expecting to take care of you? And this year is all about personal responsibility. It is about accountability. It is you showing up for you, you doing what you say you're going to do, you following through on you, with you. Because if you don't do it, people aren't going to trust you. People aren't going to be inspired by you. And we all need you to inspire us in the way that you came here to inspire. Lead by example. What is your gift? What is it you desire to experience in this life? What is it that you value, that you make a priority in your life? What is important to you? And what are the things that you notice that you do on a regular basis? The strengths, the motivating, the demoting, and the promoting habits. Start evaluating your life. Look at it with a fine-tooth comb. Write it all down. I'm in the process of doing this myself. What needs to change for you to get from point A to point B? Because if you don't start looking at this and you don't actually start making small changes, because every little change is cumulative. Little steps are better than no steps. If you need to clear out a closet, do one item at a time if you have to. If you need to sell things, list one thing at a time each day. Make a routine. Set a habit, a new habit. It takes 40 days to create a new habit. It takes 40 days to also change an old habit. But it's important that you do this for you, nobody else. Because this is what it's about this year, is what is it that you've been doing that aligns with you and what doesn't? Because some of us are still doing things that aren't healthy. They're demoting. They're taking us out of our joy. We're still whining and complaining. Like, really sit with that. What is it in your life that you're like sick and tired of? Because sometimes you just got to get sick of your own shit and look in the mirror and go, okay, I'm done. I'm done. I've had enough of my own poo. Because if you don't do it for yourself, who else will? And so for me, this is what's been really powerful, because as it is, and I don't know, all of a sudden I've got this stuffy nose and I probably could use some water, and I didn't grab any. That's okay. There are so many things I've been reflecting upon. I mean, if you saw my latest little short video, I know a lot of people don't know my story. I don't expect you to, because I haven't exactly gone screaming from the rooftops, and it's a long one. I've had many lives in this one life. And I think my first book will be about Italy, because my love affair with Italy, especially Naples, is something of something. It is something. Let me just say this. Most people would not believe half of what I experienced just in that short time of my life. But I can assure you, in the time of my life, I have seen so much, experienced so much. Yes, I've been abused when I was a child with my sisters by a pedophile in a town, a very small town. The man used to take pictures of children, and he went to jail, and funny enough, got out. But he was protected by people in that small town too. You know, this is a big thing that's coming out in the world right now. That was in the 80s. And I got to see how corrupt the system was back then. Because let me tell you, when you're a little girl and you have detectives take you into a room without your parents, and they're men and you're young girls, and I walked in with my youngest sister in there, and that pissed me off. And my impression of and I was, what year was that? I was around 9 or 10, maybe. I can assure you that seeing these particular male detectives interrogating my younger sister with the doll, asking questions to explain and to point and to show, to me it was insulting, it was disgusting, and I honestly, the impression I got was they got off on it. Experiencing that at a young age really woke me the hell up. Got me to see how fucked up of a system it is when you interrogate young children and make them feel ashamed. You don't actually help them. And they didn't just ask us to come in once. They made us come in a second time. They came to our schools. So that was embarrassing enough, because of course everybody in the school's like, what happened? And then of course small towns gossip, because there were articles written about it, and there were parents that talked about it. And then the parents of those other girls that we were friends with were telling their children, we don't want you hanging out with those girls, like we were problems. So we got to experience that at a young age. And tell me that's not fucked up. So growing up, and you know, we moved around. So and luckily, we didn't end up going to court for that, because my mother was really upset. They tried to subpoena us, and we were minors. My mom said that was illegal. My grandfather got involved and actually had it taken care of. I don't even know the details. But my mother took us out to Arizona on a road trip. We just jumped in the car one day. Come on, girls, we're going for a ride. Which we always joked about, thought it was funny, because we didn't know we were going for a ride to Phoenix, Arizona from Holton, Maine. So yeah, that was actually fun, interesting. But yeah, that was just one small experience in my life that had me grow up really quickly at a young age. And so many people have the arrogance and self-righteous attitude to act like, well, how do you know? It's like, you know what? Children know. Children can see through bullshit. Children can see through lies. Until they have been fully indoctrinated and wiped clean of their true trust in their knowing, because most children are. Most children are taught up until the age of 6, don't trust your intuition, don't trust your inner voice. And when you're taught to only trust those around you and not yourself, that in itself is disempowering. And that's the one disservice we do the most to most children there are parents that do foster and nurture their children into trusting their intuition, their emotions, and what they feel. And grateful that I still had a lot of that, especially having that experience. That taught me at a young age that I knew something wasn't right. And I trusted that. And it's why I still maintained such a connection to source and kept that private. And that was mine. I never felt like I had to explain to people my connection to God, to source, whatever you call it. Because to me, that's private. That's my heart. It wasn't until I got older that I found other people felt the same way, and it felt good to know that I wasn't the only one. And that I had, imaginary friends and angels that watched over me. And I always knew that. I knew that because at 17, I should have gone through the windshield of a car. At 17, I was in the middle of a pickup truck going around a curve, and instead of making the curve, we ended up, because a car was coming in the other direction, hitting a telephone pole. Now, if it wasn't for the telephone pole, we would have gone over the embankment, and I didn't have a seatbelt on, and I would have gone through the windshield. Because when we hit the telephone pole, my leg supported me because it hit the middle dash, and my head left an indentation in the windshield, and it left glass in my head. And I look back at that, and I think I know I was watched over because my mother wouldn't have been able to handle if something had happened to me. If I had actually died in that accident, my mother wouldn't have been able to hold it together. Because over the course of our lives, my mother lost it several times over things that happened to us as children. She was completely devastated by what happened to us as at young age. She used to actually say, I never want what happened to me to happen to you girls. And that's how I learned about the power of manifestation, and where attention goes, energy flows. And I felt so bad because I could see that she had this story in her mind that she was protecting us. And then when it happened, she felt like she had failed us, that she was unable to protect us. And that happened a lot. And that's just a small window look into my childhood. Also when I was 15 years old, a young man that I loved here in Florida, when I went to school in Port Richey, I was reminded in having this conversation for New Year's Eve with a woman who happened to know a lot of the people I grew up with. I loved Tyler, and right before he overdosed on lithium, because back in the day they called it manic depressant, now they call it bipolar, he was upset with me because I had done something stupid. And we were on the phone, and he had his own personal phone line. And I actually fell asleep on the phone with him, but he told me, I'm going to pick you up every single day and drive you to school. Make sure you get to school. And that's how much I love you. Well, I got in trouble because of that particular incident, so I was grounded off the phone. One day I woke up and I was really frantic. I felt like something was not right. And my mother ran out to do something, and I was grounded not to use the phone. So as soon as she left the house, I got on the phone and I called his phone number. When his phone picked up, it was his father answering it. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Nobody ever answers his phone but him, because it's his phone line. And I said, is Tyler there? And he said, no, Tyler won't be living here anymore. He's dead. And I was like, I was totally stunned. And I hung up the phone, and the first thing I did was call my best friend Alex, who was another one of our mutual friends, that we were like 3 people who were really close. And I said, I don't know what to say, but I just called Tyler's phone number, and his father answered and said, Tyler won't be living anymore. He's dead. And I'm like, and I was frantic. I was bawling, and he called, and same thing. And my mother got home, and she found me crying and really upset. And my mother was even upset then because she realized I'll never ground you again, because she felt like she was in the middle of that too. And as a result of that, I went through a deep, deep depression, and she took me to counseling. So I went to a counselor who happened to know Tyler's dad, because Tyler's dad was a doctor. And these were the times that I grew up in that, you know, nobody knew how to deal with suicide or how to console the kids of the friends of people, you know, like when we lost someone. And these are the things that shaped my life and my perception about life. Like, wow, as a young child, as a teenager growing up, and even when I went in the military, I had dealt with so much adversity before I even signed. And I was sworn in at the same time as President Clinton. Are you kidding me now? And I'm a Leo. Like, you can't make up. There's so many freaking crazy synchronicities with my life and the craziness that's happened and the people that I've met and numerology, and I've had my chart read, and yeah. And I've always known I have a powerful role to play in this life. And I know that certain people have tried to keep me under their thumb. The military was a great example of that. I dealt with so much abuse of power. I witnessed so much corruption from the inside. I'm not regretting anything. I'm just saying I know firsthand. And that so many people want to believe the best. And so did I. Just like I wanted to, you know, like when I used to go to my family doctor when I was a child, I was like, I was a good doobie, you know, romper room, if you remember that. Our family doctor, I would go in sick, but I would have a big smile like, hello. I've always been that very vivacious, you know, like nobody ever had anything bad to say about me because I was always agreeable and kind and, yeah, a little naive sometimes. But I wouldn't change it for the world because that's just my nature and that's who I am. I have grit, I have sass. Don't fuck with me. Don't think that just because I teach yoga that I don't I don't see through bullshit too. That's another thing that cracks me up. So, you know, having changed my lifestyle, people just think they can just act like I'm all namaste and all. Like, the fuck does that mean? Seriously. Namaste your ass away from me. How about that one? If you think you're going to try to pull one over on me, or you're going to think that I'm going to be naive and ignorant to other people's passive aggressivity or narcissism, I'm here to tell you I've had so many experiences at this point. Now I see it and I call it out. Or I don't bother with it because I'm not going to waste my energy on things that don't uplift and serve. In fact, this past year really saved me a lot because I had people that I had to witness and realize that they didn't have my best interest at heart. And in fact, if they weren't just jealous, they were envious, and that really blew my mind because they didn't even realize they were explaining that in the way that they were behaving and demonstrating themselves. But it did kind of like go, hey, Lana, guess what? There are people that don't like you, and it's okay. And they're giving you permission to not have to like people too. So that's the thing I also appreciate. The people who don't like me, who demonstrated that this past year, the ones who, you know, whether they're envious of me or whatever it is, they're competitive. You know, that's usually what that is. It's coming from fear. Anyone who isn't at least neutral with you, and they're basically shoving you off, blowing you off, telling you they don't agree or they don't like you, whatever their method, because it may not come across as I don't like you. It could be I don't agree with everything you say, or they can tell you I love you, but they're fucking giving you the finger at the same time. Trust people's actions more than their words. That's all I can say. But the truth is what that taught me is it's okay not to have to associate with everybody. It's okay to not have to like everybody either. Meaning, you know, I've been in the spiritual world here since, oh gosh, I came out of, y'all, I came out of Naples, Italy, and Date with Destiny with Anthony Robbins and hanging out with people in Tampa and a whole party scene, to doing hot yoga, because I used to teach aerobics, kickboxing, and all that too. And when I came back here to the States and I was trying to find my groove and my niche, and I was hanging out with some people I knew from prior and some people I met through, meetups and Facebook and all that stuff that, social media does afford us. And I realized I needed to get into meditation more. I needed to slow down because I was always on the go. I am a type A personality. Gotta sweat to get your groove on. Gotta move it because that's how I deal with stress. I've always known to shake it out through my body. Physical activity has always been a way for me to harness anger. And like when I'm stressed out, I know that. I've known that for a very long time. I used to love to run. Running was my moving meditation. And so I joined Yoga Village in 2009. And from that point on, I started to kind of slow down and see my thoughts and see, wow, there's some crazy stuff that's been going on in the background. That's humbling. And, I didn't go around advertising what my life was before this. In fact, I know there's been an assumption that, oh, this yogi, this raw foodie, because I started eating, I was guided through getting my wisdom teeth, not my wisdom teeth. I had all of my mercury fillings that the military put in after I'd had them taken out prior. I had all of them replaced, the amalgam removed, the composites put in, and then not long after I had a reaction to gluten, to wheat gluten. And that was like a huge wake-up call for me because I'd always had IBS. I was diagnosed with IBS coming out of the military. And that's another thing. I've been fighting with the military just to get my disability, on stuff that was caused by vaccines, INH, overdosing on Motrin. Oh my God. Vitamin M is the worst thing for your liver. Raynaud's, cervical spine issues, lower lumbar issues, thoracic issues, shoulder issues, knees and ankles, and you name it. I'm telling you, you probably couldn't even tell because the average person looks at me and goes, oh, she's so skinny, she has no problems. A lot of times the skinnier the person, they're probably dealing with just as much chronic pain. But the thing is what I'm here to say is that I'm not running around complaining. I'm looking for solutions because that's who I am. I'm not going to go whining about what problems I have. I've already lived in that space, and I got sick of hearing it. I got so sick of hearing my own shit. That's why I started working on it. And when I started seeing the patterns as I came back, Date with Destiny was a huge one for me. December of 2008, I went to, we were in Orlando, and that was 6 days of intense work. And for 2 weeks after that, I was sick, purging, cleansing, because to me, that's what happens when you really dredge up all your old trauma, and it's a way of purging it out as your body just says, ugh, okay, we did a lot of work. Now we need to recover. When your body is run down, you need to listen. People have gotten in this really bad habit of pointing fingers. Somebody gave me this. Are you kidding me? Take personal responsibility. You weren't paying attention to the signs. What did you eat? What were you drinking? What are you taking? Are you really that tuned out of your body that you think other people give you something? If your immune system is weak and you are not taking care of your holy temple, that's on you. I've taken personal responsibility for not getting enough sleep at night, burning the candle at both ends, eating the wrong foods. Back in the day when I used to drink, oh my gosh, I was a wine drinker. I was a wine connoisseur. Red wine's my favorite. I don't drink anymore because I find spirits are how they infiltrate. It's not healthy. It's depleting spirits. You're bringing in spirits. Really play with words. Come on, people. It's all spell casting. So, and then cleaning up my diet, that made a huge difference. So in 2010, after getting all that, my dental work done, and then having that reaction, because they say when you get rid of the metal in your body becomes more sensitive. And then all of a sudden it was clear, oh, I've had a problem with gluten for most of my life. But see, I don't know if that originates with the glyphosate, the stuff that they poison our food and our fields with before they even plant. You know, the Roundup Ready this and the Roundup Ready that. We don't know. I mean, I was thinking about this. You need to be asking the questions. When something doesn't sound right, like, why aren't we having these conversations? Like, we all kind of have these little questions we just don't talk about. My big one was this. You want to trust the same people that said it was okay to poison the earth to kill off weeds. And then later, we find out those weeds are superfoods. Isn't that ironic? They encouraged you to kill off the weeds, and now you're learning they're superfoods. Ah, how about that? How about you get so dependent on the system, you never stop to think about taking care of yourself, but just popping some pills and always going back to the doctor for more. It baffles me. I really just got to a point in my life where I wanted to take back my body. And after I had that reaction to the gluten, and I went into my doctor, who was supposed to be she's a nurse, she was an actual doctor, and she was holistic, so she claimed. And when I told her, this is the research I did, everything's pointing to the gluten, the wheat especially. I was itching everywhere. I was distended, constipated, itching like crazy. It was unbearable. And she goes, "Who's the doctor here?" And I was like, wow, okay, that's insulting, because I live with this body 24/7. And the doctors are practicing. Let's keep this into perspective. So I really had to make a conscious effort to recognize that I'm responsible for me. I can't put my body in someone else's hands. What that is irresponsible. Your body speaks distinctly to you in the language that only you can understand. When you get a pain, you can't go talk to a doctor and ask him, what's this pain mean? If you tap into that pain, you lean into it, you embrace it, you become friends with that pain, you're going to find that pain is talking to you and it has a message. There's purpose in your pain, and that pain has a message for you that only you, it's designed for you, can understand. And most of it goes back to inner child healing and work. And until you're willing to deeply reflect upon your life and what is or isn't working, what has happened in your past, you're not going to heal anything. And that's what this next year is about. What have you been putting off? What have you been neglecting in your life? What is it you truly want? Do you like to live the mundane? Do you like blinders on? Do you like not to know? Like in The Great Gatsby, when she says, I wish for my daughter to be ignorant and stupid, just pretty. Like, that's paraphrasing, but essentially she didn't want her daughter to be smart because she saw she was smart herself. Do we really want that for the world? I don't. I want so much more. And personally, I feel like there's so much regulation at this point. So much is withheld from us. I'm coming from a technology background, by the way. So when I look at everything, and this is what I was sitting with the other day too, and most people don't want to hear it. The same people who designed this technology that I used to support back in the day, they're in the business of war, people. Wake up. Do you really think they have your best interest at heart? Really? All of it's been a lie, and it's being weaponized against us. Yeah, all of this. Everything's listened to. Everything's monitored. There is no sacredness in this. The truth is you got to decide what's right for you. You got to decide what's sacred, what's worth your time and energy. Where can you focus your time and energy now? Don't get caught up in the fights and the distractions. Can you navigate your life in the direction of your dreams at this point? Or are you going to look at what you consider limitations, obstructions, obstacles? Because those are mental constructs. Even if you think you see it out in the world, that may not actually apply to you. It's just your belief in it that does. And that's what creates our limitations, is the belief. Not what we see, but what we believe. It's really easy to think, because we see it on the television, that applies to us. But it doesn't. Most of the stuff we see that doesn't even affect our lives, that we engage with, whether it's technology and social media, which is another form of media, TV. You know, a lot of people don't have TVs, but they still got their social media. There's no difference. It's all there to entertain and entertain you, to keep you in the distraction mode. You got controlled opposition on this side and controlled opposition on that side. You got this narrative and this one against it. Because this is the world of polarity and duality. We need the angel and the devil. We need the good and the bad, the yin and the yang, the true and the false. This or that. That's the trap. Choosing either or keeps you in the game. So when you get caught up, whether you're complying or denying or defying or whatever you want to call it, you're still playing into it. You're still contributing to the whole mass psychosis the collective consciousness is trying to heal from. And this is all of ours. It's mine, it's yours, it's everyone's. Nobody is immune to what is going on around you. Great documentary if you get a chance to watch, Kymatica, Kymatica. It's humbling to understand that what is going on within you, if you have not healed it, it is mirroring outside of you. Because where attention goes, that's where your energy has been flowing in and out, right? As above, so below. As within, so without. Whatever it is you haven't healed on the inside, it's going to show up on the outside. One of the challenges I've been dealing with this year myself is I am the one that most people turn to when they need someone. And this is the year where I'm not going to be that available to people, especially people who haven't reciprocated. And I need people to help me. And I'm at that point in my life where I need receptivity. And if it doesn't show up, sorry, I'm not available. So I equally need to receive, and I'm open and willing to. I invite in receptivity to my life, because that is my big healer right now, that I have allowed people to leave out of my world, to exit, right, bye-bye, because they have shown me that they're only in service for themselves. That's the survival mode. That's coming from the fear, the FOMO. And you know what? You only live once, YOLO. So if you don't grab your life by the reins, somebody else will take over. And they will control your world and your life. And that's what this is about. The energy of 2022 is, are you going to take control of your life and take personal responsibility? Be accountable. And notice if you are in the fear mode or if you are in receptivity, which is love. Because it is a flow that gives and it receives. It doesn't just take and deplete. So we have to be really in the mirror with ourselves. Straight up, you need to be forthcoming, because if you don't do that with yourself, it's going to show up in your relationships and you're going to get called out for it. So this is the year, call yourself out so others don't do it for you or to you. So you don't end up feeling like the victim when in reality you're the one who created the suffering. We create our suffering. The more you know you, nobody else can take advantage of you. Because when you know you so well, you will see through all the lies around you. Because you know what you've done and where you've been. You'll recognize the other as you. Oh shit, I've been known to lie like that too. Hey, own it. Own it so it doesn't own you. That's the name of the game. And you have to be really good at being you. Because most people, they're not the star of their own show. In fact, they're playing an extra in many others' lives. And until you own and be the star of your own show, you're just an extra, living out the mundane, dictated life. And how many of us, I was one of them, the white picket fence syndrome. Here are the things I want to do in my life, but one day I'll have the white picket fence and I'll meet my love of my life and we'll have children and we'll be happily married and ever after. Oh my God. Seriously? Boy, did I wake up from that one. I'm like, that ain't happening, especially when I was in the military. You know, I witnessed... I didn't want to be like my parents, fighting all the time. I knew they deserved better. I loved them both. They weren't compatible. But also in the military, I witnessed how many people were unhappy. They married people just because they were lonely. There was a lot of codependency. And that's another thing you got to own, because codependency, it's a killer. Codependency tends to rob you. What did I write? Oh. See, what happens with codependency, we got to wake up to any toxic codependent relationships we have or have had in our past so that we don't repeat those patterns. Because codependency, it basically causes us to abandon ourselves and disempower us. And we've all done it. We've all been there. Whether it is with family members, friends, the government, your employers, your job. Are you happy in your work right now? Or are you relying upon that paycheck? Start looking where your heart will be happier. That's the key to this year. Because if you don't do it for yourself, it'll be done for you. And I'm one to tell you that story from Naples, Italy, that my heart wasn't in it. I was going in for the paycheck because I had to support myself. And then when the rug was pulled out from underneath me, as toxic as that situation was, it was meant. That was God stepping in. That was divine intervention for me. I didn't want to believe it. And I'll never forget standing, this is how my book will begin, standing in Villa Comunale, in the park with my dog, on the phone with my mom, overlooking the Bay of Naples. My mother had just read the book Gamora, and I lived in the heart of it. Gamora, if you don't know, is the book that talks about the Gamora. Just one of the many crime families they call in Italy, Naples especially. And my mom said, I don't just want you out of Naples, I want you out of Italy. I said, Mom, I'm fine, I'm protected. This is my heart, this is my home, and I don't feel ready to go. I don't feel like it's time for me to go. And I was in such denial. I didn't want to believe that my time had come to an end. And it really wasn't fully at an end. I did go back and forth because I was dating Claudio, but boy, oh boy, the stories I can tell that you're going to have to read. Yeah. The Ferrari on the Amalfi Coast with my one boyfriend, Giuseppe. He was Il Bugiardo, the liar. And you know, some of you guys think you're clever. Us women, we're pretty funny and clever ourselves. I always had a nickname for my boyfriends. And some of them are pretty funny. So this year for me, this is the mantra of you're either in my life or just fuck off. I know that sounds crass, doesn't it? But I really don't have time for people who are wasting my time. I really don't. Because too many people have shown up in my life and I've really allowed them to stick around longer than they were meant to. And, you know, being loyal to a fault usually only fails you, not others. Because others benefit. And it's up to you to recognize what it is you need for you. Nobody's going to do that for you. And if you don't ask for what you want, you'll never know if you can get it. That's one thing my dad taught us growing up. You know, we used to go to restaurants, and my dad had a restaurant growing up. And my dad would say, you know, let's go to a restaurant, and he would always ask for something that wasn't on the menu. So that was second nature. And it's very common in Europe, especially in Italy. You know, they love it when someone asks for something that's not on the menu, because it's like creative juices get to flow, and they get to surprise you. And you know, a real chef wants to like really see your face just light up from the flavors and the, you know, the satisfaction that gives them that dopamine, that chemical cocktail, I call it. And it's beautiful. I love that. That's one of the things I miss the most about living in Europe, is the way that they seek to delight and surprise you. You know, the sensory, oh, it's all five senses. It's not just visuals. It's the sound of the voices and the song and the language. And when I lived in Naples, Italy, it was like, ciao bella, come stai? Ciao Lana. Like, it was a red carpet for me. I'm telling you, my love affair with Naples, Italy was something special. And yes, I felt like a celebrity there, and I was treated that way. And that's just one of many lives that I've lived. And some of the people that I worked with at the Navy base, they were jealous of my life, because they had to vicariously live through me. And they loved hearing my stories and then stabbing me in the back. It was interesting. Naivete, it's all good. I don't care. So, yeah, just remember something though. You know, if you're not questioning things, it's one of those double-edged swords. Life is meant to be challenged. You're meant to be challenged. If you're not willing to question things, trust me, you'll be questioned. You'll be challenged. So it's better to be the one on, as we say, the offense than the defense. So as long as you're going in with curiosity like a child, then you will only be surprised and delighted. Every once in a while, maybe a question gets you, you know, a kickback, a setback, whatever. But you know what? At least you know where you stand. When you're willing to ask the questions, you're not held back. That's the one thing I've learned in my life. The more willing I was asking the question, the more willing I was willing to put myself out there, the more willing I was willing. At least I knew where I stood. And it might have stung to find out something I didn't want to hear, but at least I didn't have to live in fear or just that story concocted in my head. You know, like most people, they run around creating a story instead of just asking the question. Like my dad will ask me questions all the time. What do you think they're such and such? Oh, I wonder how much that cost. Dad, why don't you just ask them? Like, really? You're asking the wrong person. Ask them. You want to know something? Look it up on Google. Look, ask. Don't ask me. I don't have all the answers. I'm willing to look it up and research it, because that's the beauty of life. You want to know the answer? Don't make up a story. Stories can get you in trouble. And they can create that suffering again, because that's what we do. We get so caught up in our own heads. We think it's true. And it's all a mental construct. Doesn't exist, it's not even true. It's just your storyline. Tell me, how's that serving you? I've had to confront so many of my own stories over the years. Conversations with people. Oh, I didn't think you liked me. Are you kidding me? I admire you. Have you ever had those kinds of conversations? I remember when I was in high school, I had girls come up to me after having parties at my house. Lana, I just want to tell you I had the most fun at your place, and I wanted to tell you I'm so sorry. I used to think you were the biggest bitch. Please don't be offended. I'm like, oh! that's how I came across, but that's not who I was. But I was grateful for the vulnerability and the courage for someone to actually admit that to me. Do you know how freeing that is to a person? And over the course of my childhood and even as an adult, I have been the last one to know about things that have been said about me that everybody else knew but me. And let me tell you, it always cracked me up because nine times out of 10, Lana, did you know this was being said about you? I'm like, what? Really? That's not true. That's bullshit. Like, why would anybody believe that? I'm a pretty real person, and I'm going to get realer and realer. I know I have a lot of wisdom because I have a lot of experience. And if it offends you, then it's probably because of some work you haven't done. That's not my work to do. If I trigger you, good. Go do that work. Go do that work on you. Because that's not about me and it's none of my business. And I honor you if you are triggered. Because at least I've done something that's hopefully motivating. Because anybody who triggers you, that's a catalyst to your growth. That's an opportunity. Thank them, bless them, because those are the people that will lift you the highest. They're the ones serving you the most. So your enemies, for example, the people you think victimize you, the people you think they despise you and they're poking and provoking you and they're doing nasty bad things or saying bad things about you. Let them inspire you to show them different. And then bless them, because if it wasn't for them, you probably wouldn't even do that. Oh, wow, yeah. And I've sat with so much of my past. Oh, you want to hear a funny story? This is the kind of mother I grew up with. My sisters and I would laugh about this. Do y'all remember when TVs started having the news tickers across the bottom? Like CNN was one of the first ones, I think. And the news channels would actually, they'd have this ticker on the bottom that would tell you the news scrolling across while they were talking. I don't remember when that happened, but I'm pretty sure I was in the Air Force at that time. And I remember going to visit my mom several times, and my mom, my sisters and I laughed about this. She'd put tape across it. This is how smart my mom was. She's like, I'm not buying into that, because then they're programming you. I kind of rolled my eyes and I was like, well, what difference does it make? You're watching it, you're listening to it. That's kind of the same thing. Because here's the thing, when I was stationed in Korea, my mother freaked out one time because she heard on CNN that the North Koreans were crossing the border. Here's some insight into the news and how this works. Another example of how I saw things unfolding. While I was stationed in Korea, that happened every single day. But see, the news only reports on things like that when they don't have anything else to report. So, a little fear drop here, a little fear drop there, they make you think that this is like a random occurrence. Are you kidding me? People are trying to get out of North Korea all the time. People are trying to cross borders all the time. I mean, we got that going on in our country, don't we? Like, get real and look beyond the box. Look beyond the craziness, because it's happening. Don't go out with blinders. Don't allow things to oh, I'm not going to look. Are you kidding me? People are still looking. People look for the doom and gloom because people are addicted to the drama and the trauma. Usually their own, but they love gossip and, oh, celebrity, right? Oh, what's this one doing? What's that one doing? What are they wearing? Let me see. I got to follow the latest fashion. We're not even the ones who choose the fashion. We're told what the latest fashion is. I've been the weird one. I have to laugh because even when I lived in Italy, I would be wearing the color of the season a season prior. And so I remember when I was wearing a lot of purples and fuchsias, and then within the next season, everybody was wearing the same color. But that's just me, and I like what I like. I don't always like what's out in fashion. Some of it, yeah. But I used to want to be a fashion designer too. I mean, when I was younger, I was an artist. So I used to draw fashion. I used to design clothes. I used to draw. I was hired by people to draw things. I used to draw Garfield, as silly as that was. And I gave my art away. I lost a lot of art over the years. I'd like to do some more of that again. But, you know, these are just insights into my life. I mean, these are the things I know about me. And you need to do that for you. Like, really tap into your gifts, your talents, your abilities. Like, what's your super spidey sense? Like, what's your special gift? Are you like psychic, clairvoyant? Do you dream? Are you good with astrology, human design? Are you a Reiki master, pranic healer? Like, what is your goodie, right? I do a little bit of everything. So, like, I follow Leo King, and I'm a huge fan because, number one, I know there's a soul tribe connection there because I don't really know astrology, not nearly as much. I have to admit, I have always been into astrology since I was a little girl, and they had those little roll-ups. You know, I remember they were not cheap back in the day either. What were they, 50 cents or something? And that was expensive in the 80s or the 70s whenever I first bought them. They were about this long, and they were rolled up real tight. And I was, you know, I'm a Leo. And you'd have to open it, and it was this long unraveling, right? And you'd have to read it, and it was small print. And I would beg my mom to get me one just for that month or whenever it was. And I was fascinated with astrology. And then my mom had me, you know, she got me a reading my very first time with a woman. Oh my gosh, Korea, I forgot. I had some issues over there too. I dealt with some power trippers, but again, that's another time for another story. But when I listen to Leo King, I kid you not, I will have journaled in my journal because I keep notes and I keep journals. And not kidding, but I will listen to what he has to say. And he uses key words that I have used in my journal. And I'm like, you can't make this stuff up. And he's saying everything from the astrological forecasting perspective, like, because he knows the planets. Me, I can't connect all the dots all the times, but it makes sense to me because I'm like, well, that's what I was picking up, because I channel my information in my morning practice, in my dreams. I'm a dreamer. I'm very prophetic. I astral project. I do all sorts of crazy work in my dream state. And when I listen to his forecast, I'm like, that's exactly what I've been picking up on for the past week or whatever. So I appreciate that there are so many talented, amazing people out there. Another one is Logan from Decode Your Reality. Please follow him as well, because he uses a mix of everything. And I can't explain the whole decoding world, but I can tell you I had a reading with him, and that rocked my world because it made so much sense. You know, you got cards of destiny. Do you know what your card is? Your birth card. I know what mine is. I'm a Queen of Diamonds. Just saying. I'm the Queen Bee, baby. I'm not denying that one anymore. My mom wanted to call me Alpha when I was born. Do you know that they wouldn't let her call me Alpha? Because Alpha is the Omega, the God, right? So in the Catholic Church, they would not allow her to call me Alpha. So she made a point to tell me I was going to name you Alpha, but they wouldn't let me. So I still wanted to call you Alpha. Okay. Makes sense to me. So, and I'm the first of 3 girls that grew up together. And yeah, numerology too. Logan does the numerology, uses Chaldean, the whole cipher coding with the Francis Bacon. It's unbelievable. I can't explain it all. I just can encourage you to go watch and tune in. Because if you can't decode you, how are you going to know what drives you? And how do you think you're going to get to your destination? If you have wants, wishes, and desires, those are there for you. But the more you know yourself, the more you can navigate your routes, your paths, your drives, whatever it is you need to do to adjust yourself. You know, it's like if you don't know a sailboat, how can you adjust the sails with the wind when it comes in? It's the same thing with you. If you don't know you inside and out, how are you going to be able to adjust when the wind comes at you in the direction that you're meant to go? This is my encouragement for every single one of you out there, because I believe in you, because I believe in me. And you are me, and I am you. Recognize the other as you. And if you can't see God in all, you can't see God at all. That means you and I are God's source. And as I like to say, when we come together in unity, humans in unity, the more of us together, that is the concentration of God's source energy, the remembers members reuniting. Remember that words have power. They cast spells. Choose your words wisely. Choose your story wisely. Write it the way you want it written. Don't let it be written for you. Your destiny is in the skies, written in the stars. Now, get out your wand and connect the dots. Because you are powerful. You are all powerful beings. And I want to see you thriving. I want to see you exploring your lives and enjoying them. Be the star of your own show. Don't let anybody come in and steal your thunder, your glory. Sparkle, baby, sparkle. Bling, bling, bring it on. And I'm all about the golden age coming back because I'm just going to say this. We've been told, I believe we've been lied to about history, that somehow we didn't have all the technology to erect all these gorgeous buildings that we never seem to have erected during this time. I mean, has anybody seen any of these big, fancy cathedrals erected in this time? I mean, we're backwards. We're degenerating, or something's not right here. To act like we're so technologically advanced right now, yet we didn't have the technology to build all those cathedrals back in the day, or even like the World's Fairs, and all those marble structures like, I don't know, UNESCO sites, government buildings, you know, just look around. The pyramids, what have you. You can't tell me that we can't build that now unless someone's withholding something. We should be able to build the exact same type of architecture, if not better. Shouldn't we? Those are the questions you should be asking. Why is it we're being told what we can and can't do? What we're capable of and not capable of? That, oh, our bodies, oh, we're not designed to beat infections. Are you fucking kidding me? Seriously? We're made in God's image. Let no man, you know, take us under. It's blasphemy. I mean, that's just one way to look at it for me. My opinion, you know, my experience, personal. And I want to say this. This is the thing that I found the funniest. I didn't say it in the beginning, and I wanted to say this. I was driving to go teach my class the other day, and I don't know what I was listening to. And I was reminded about that game, Simon Says. Do you remember that game, Simon Says? Do you stop and think about all these childhood games we used to play? Hungry Hippos, you know, Chutes and Ladders, Monopoly. Boy, we were primed. This is all life. We were primed, ready to be indoctrinated. Simon Says. Or Red Rover, so-and-so come over. Like all those kind of games that we played, you know, dodgeball, stupid things like this. But the Simon Says really stood out to me yesterday because I was like, oh, you do whatever you're told because Simon says, right? And then you don't think about it as you become an adult because it's just the way it is. Because you've always been told what to do, and so you don't question authority. And because I've been through certain experiences in my life, of course I've questioned authority because it didn't make sense. And from a young age, I experienced authority that was disrespectful and didn't deserve my respect. And I explained that with being young children and witnessing detectives. It's not right. Everyone should be able to ask a question. And if you can't, that's their fear, not yours. Don't be in a place of fear of asking questions, because that is what brings fear out into the open. When you can't ask a question, it's showing the reality of their fear, not yours. Because truth will always answer. Truth. Lies don't like to be questioned. Isn't that how that goes? The truth will always give you the right answer. The lies will hide and they will defend. They will passive aggressive. You know, we've been indoctrinated. We've been infiltrated with narcissism, people. This whole narcissistic situation we're in right now. So many games were designed to program us, but it's not until you wake up that you can actually see it for what it is. And so many are simply rule followers, never question anything. You don't even know how to discern and recognize the truth. Can you imagine going through life like that? I can't. I cannot even imagine just going along to get along. There were times when I tried that and it ached in my body. I felt it. And I was like, I can't fucking do this. I'm sorry. Not sorry. And yeah, even if it got me in trouble, because I was willing to question authority, especially abuses of power. And I dealt with a lot of it. Because corruption at the top trickles down. The more toxic the leadership, we feel it on the way down. That's a fact of life. So if you're in a toxic work environment, it's showing the mirror of the leadership. It shouldn't be that way. Nothing should be. And I also want to point out, because right now we're in a world of like upside down, inside out, like seriously, this righteousness of doing the right thing. So we're going back to the Simon Says. So you've been told what to do, and there's a bunch of people running around with this self-righteousness thinking that they're doing the right thing because they were told to do it, versus actually innately right doing, meaning they don't realize how they've been duped and hijacked into this ideology that the narcissism has infiltrated our culture. So this self-righteous, I'm doing the right thing because that's what I was told to do. Are you kidding me? That doesn't make it right. If anything, it just goes back to the old days of, Anne Frank, who reported her, who turned her and her family in. That was self-righteous. That wasn't right. That was the idea that, they were acting out of fear. That's not love. And when it comes down to it, what's that old story about how when they came for this group, nobody spoke up, but when they came for the other group, nobody spoke up. And when they finally came for me, there was nobody to speak up for me. If we don't start coming together, united we stand, divided we fall. They know that's the art of war, divide and conquer. But you got to be right in yourself first. And you got to know what drives you. Are you afraid of being outcast from society? Let me tell you, that's the first thing I noticed with the social media, because I had already been disabled on Facebook back in 2018, and I had experienced what it felt like to be outcast from my social media. And that was a wake-up call for me then. And I went, wow, holy crap. I felt like I lost my identity. It was the weirdest thing. And the reason I had that experience was to be able to see what was going to be happening down the pipeline. I officially lost that account because I was able to get it back. I officially lost that account 2 years ago. And it sucks because that was an original Facebook account when I had to be invited, and I had that account from when I lived in Italy, and I had my entire history, had all my pictures, even when I lived downtown with my Mini Cooper, which I could write a book just based on that car. But that was wild. I was like, man, you know what? People don't realize. They get you so addicted to the technology, so you'll never think that it's actually being used against you. So addicted, you'll think it's there to support you when it's there to be used for you, against you. And that the idea that the addiction is so real that you would be more distraught and more desperate, depressed to be outcast from the device, from society, than in real society. And that's been orchestrated completely for the reason of this. Hey, I'm just speaking from my personal experience and the fact that I used to support all this. I mean, this was my work, IT. You don't have to take my word for it. Look at your own life. That's how it works. And I've been seeing this coming down the pipeline. I didn't want to believe it. My mom used to say, I can see how technology could be used. My defense was, Mom, I can see how it can be used to bring us together. And I still believe that. We can still take it back because it is ours, essentially. I mean, it has brought so many of us together, and I'm grateful for that. But it has to be conscious. We have to stop being complacent, complicit, and so willing to give up our rights. You know what freedom truly is? Freedom is yeah, anyway. Freedom is liberation from worrying about what anybody thinks about you. It's the ability to do what you want to do, which none of us really feel like you can do that, do we? When you go to do anything in your day, what are the things that you have to stop and think about before you do them? I'll give you an example. You get in your car. I got to strap on my seatbelt. I got to make sure I got my driver's license on me. Why? These are just, we live on a planet where we're paying to live here. And people don't ever question these things. Like George Carlin was one of the best comedians ahead of his time. And you just listen to his stuff. It sounds funny, but it's true. And it's real. It's life. There's nothing free about living on this planet, and that's wrong. So you want to talk about self-righteous? That's not right. The fact that people police one another, that's been orchestrated and indoctrinated into us too. Because misery loves company. If you're unhappy, you're more likely to police other people because, well, if you're not happy, you don't want to see anybody else happy. Because that's part of the psychology too. I know, I've been there. I've experienced it firsthand. When you're miserable in your life, you want to bring others down with you. But I'll tell you equally, if you are one of the people that likes to be happy, and when you're happy, you want to bring people with you too. You get to choose which it is for you. And that's what this year is about. Are you going to be one of those people that's miserable, is going to let the unconscious drivers, programming, drag you down and try to suck it out of other people and bring them with you? Or are you going to be the person who takes your personal accountability and responsibility and stand in your power, empower yourself to the point where you take it and you go, I am going to uplift others and bring them with me because I'm going to infect everybody with my joy, my exuberance, my super happy self, because I'm here to light up the world. And I want to see others shine as well. This world it's meant for us. We need to stop allowing the doom and the gloom to suck the life out of us, because that's really what this is about. Technology is all about sucking that life out of you. That's the way it's being utilized. Whether it's how many likes I get, how much attention I get. Because here's the psychology that I've noticed with followers and such. People are more likely to follow someone just because they have a high following, not because their content is always that great. But you'll notice that people also pay for their followers. And then sometimes people will follow people not realizing they're not 100% aligned. I don't know how to explain that one. You got to figure it out for yourself. There's a lot I've had to kind of like lean into over these past few years with controlled opposition. And, they need the narrative to keep going. They need people on both sides to keep us engaged. So if you're picking a side and you're going along with these different narratives, you're contributing to the problems that we claim to not want to have to deal with. The only way to really shut it down is to shut it out. To choose the middle way and to recognize neutrality. Don't let it get you triggered in this way or that direction. Because again, duality is the trap. This or that takes you out of the game, puts you in the game. The middle way is what the gurus and the masters always spoke about. Focus on your life. Focus on making it better. Inspire others through your inspired living. Be a leader. Be the lighthouse. Show and light the way. That's what Jesus and all the other masters were teaching. They weren't saying, I'm going to come back and save you. That's for you to do. And all these books, yeah, they all have similar stories. They got truths, they got lies. It's all mixed up to keep us confused. When it really boils down to it, man still wrote, I don't know what I believe. I believe what's in here, though. And I've received a lot of information myself. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting, intriguing stories and writings, but always question everything. Because there's a point where you got to discern the truth from the lies and the lies from the truth, because they sprinkle it in everything. And they do that deliberately, because there's that universal law that they have to tell you the truth. But it doesn't say they can't sprinkle in confusion and distraction to keep you off their scent. So even though the truth is right in front of your face, you're in denial because you don't want to believe it. That's usually the bottom line. So even if you look out at the world and you see things you don't want to see, it doesn't make it go away. Remember that. The more willing you are to face the truth, the less likely you're going to suffer later. But the more you are in denial of it, you're just prolonging your suffering. So again, this year, make a pact. It's your time to act. Step into your power, taking personal responsibility, be accountable, and remember, receptivity is the key to humans in unity. Receptivity is the key to humans in unity. I love you so much. Get sweet dreams. God bless.